That is that it continues to violate the voting rights of Latinos. Para los que están aquí en español, también vamos a hablar en español y por favor, las preguntas las podemos contestar en inglés o en español. So with that, I'd like to have the plaintiffs start. I'll start with Domingo Garcia. I don't know what that is. And Domingo, the case is called Lulac versus Abbott. Go ahead, Domingo, and then we'll start with the next person.
Hello, my name is Domingo Garcia. I'm the national president of LULAC. And I would like to say that I'm very concerned over the political weaponization of gerrymandering as a tool by the Republican Party in Texas. The fact of the matter is, what we're seeing right now is a gerrymandering of historical Texas-sized bullshit proportion. The fact of the matter is, when Latinos and people of color make up 95% of the growth in the states, and we get 2 new congressional districts, but not 1 new congressional district is allocated. Okay. Don't know what happened.
You're fine. Continue.
Yeah, you sound great.
The echo went, so go ahead. Are you done?
De vuelta, Domingo.
Okay, we'll come back to Domingo if he comes back. Let's have Larry Romo go next.
Thank you, and I appreciate being on this task force. My name is Larry Romo. I am the former national commander of the American GI Forum, where I served 3 years. I'm currently the National Legislative Committee Chairman for our organization. We stand up for civil rights, equal rights, educational access, and advocate for veterans and military issues. I'm also on the Base Renaming Commission, renaming military installations named after Confederates. It's a bipartisan commission. I was appointed by Congress. I'm also the former United States Director of the Selective Service System, and I'm a retired Lieutenant Colonel from the United States Air Force. What I'm going to do to save time is I'm going to put my comments in the chat box, and I could send a Word copy to the people. I'm specifically addressing, there's a lot of issues to address, but the issues with the 16th district, 23rd district, and 20th districts and how they affect the military installations as we deal with military issues. So that's what I'll cover, and I'll put that in the chat box. Thank you.
Lydia, you're on mute.
Sorry, I'm trying to include the last folks that are joining us. Angela Razo, go ahead. You're next.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Angelica Razo. I'm the Texas State Director for Mi Familia Vota. Our organization supports and empowers Latino voters to participate in our democratic processes. We're honored to be part of this lawsuit with colleagues that stand with us in our mission of protecting the Latino community political's power and resources.
Recording stopped.
Our organization has worked tirelessly in 2020 to make sure that every
recording in progress
in the census, and we mobilized thousands of voters to the polls in November. Despite the numerous uphill battles that we faced through the pandemic and misinformation, our engagement efforts prevailed. The data is showing evidence that Latinos showed up to be counted and voted, not just for partisan gains, but for the livelihoods of our families. We've been advocating since the beginning of the 2021 legislative session that the legislators' redistricting process be one that is transparent and fair and allows for ample time to do expert analysis and provide community input. We are disappointed that our state leaders failed to comply with this. The maps that were passed by the state legislators severely underestimate the Latino population's growth, and we refuse to accept the maps that erase our community's presence in an attempt to stifle our power. We deserve maps that allow us the ability to choose candidates of our choice. Latinos are a significant portion of the growing electorate in Texas, and we are mobilizing those folks that are joining this electorate. We are honored to be part of the community. We are honored to have our community represented by MALDEF in this litigation. We're going to continue to educate, empower, and mobilize our community to participate and vote. And the power that we are building is to break this cycle of disenfranchisement. Thank you.
Lupe, thank you. Lupe, you're next. Please introduce yourself. You're on mute, mujer.
Yes. Thank you. Muy buenos días. Good morning to everyone. My name is Juanita Valdez Cox. I am the executive director of La Unión del Pueblo Entero, or LUPE, a nonpartisan, nonprofit membership organization founded by activists Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta. LUPE has been involved working with MALDEF and many other plaintiff organizations involved in this lawsuit to defend the voting rights of Latino voters for decades. Sadly, our efforts have been required every census count because the Texas legislature has persisted in drawing district maps that give unfair advantage to non-minority candidates. The 2020 census showed that almost 90% of the population growth in Texas was attributed to Black and Brown residents. Even so, both the two new congressional districts that resulted from the growth were drawn in favor. The election of congressional candidates that resulted from the growth were drawn to favor the election of non-minority candidates. Only one term can accurately explain those results: racial discrimination. We are confident that our attorneys will demonstrate the racism that led to the creation of these misdrawn maps and convince the judge in order the legislature to redraw a better set of maps. It will guarantee that every voter in Texas the opportunity to elect candidates of their choice. We're very pleased and very proud to again have Lupe involved as a plaintiff in this lawsuit. Sigamos adelante, no nos dejamos, y cuantas veces ellos quieran fregarnos, estamos presentes. Y así es. Que viva la unión.
Gracias,
Los
Juanita.
campesinos.
Gracias.
Y
Lupe.
que viva los campesinos.
Dr. Stanpas.
Muy buenos días. Good morning. My name is Dr. Stan Paz. I'm the executive director for TALAS, the Texas Association of Latino Administrators and Superintendents. We're very pleased and honored to be a member of the redistricting task force. And we want to, as an organization, provide a voice and advocate on behalf of Latino learners and Latino leaders in the state of Texas. We have 53% of the student population in our public schools, and they need someone to represent them. And for that matter, we're very proud and honored to be a part of the litigation and moving forward to doing what is best and just for our Latino youth.
Thank you, Dr. Paz. Joey Cardenas. Did we lose him? He was here a second ago. Okay, I'll come back to him if he comes back. Cesar Espinosa.
Hello, good morning. My name is Cesar Espinosa, and I'm executive director of FIEL. We are Houston's largest immigrant-led civil rights organization with about now 14,000 members in the greater Houston area. And we do a lot of work on a variety of things. I think for us,
You're on mute. I don't know what happened.
there it goes. Yes, I think that for one of us, one of the things that strikes us the most is promises yet again broken. We promise people, you know, to get status, you're going to live a better life. Once they get status, we promise them when they once they become a citizen, they're going to be able to fully participate in the process. And once again, if the maps remain the way that they do, it could lead to another broken promise for our community. So we want people to continue to participate in the process and not be discouraged by what they see in the news, but rather we want to continue to fight and advocate together with our community so that they can get the justice that they deserve, and we can keep the promises that once they become citizens, they will be able to fully participate in the process and will be fully in charge of their own future. So we have also a lot of mixed status families where some members in the family are undocumented, but their children are the ones that are representing them at the ballot box for a better future for their parents and their families. So it's important that we also don't break a promise to these young folks that if they vote, they're going to create a change, and we must do everything we can in order to make sure that we keep that promise. And we must do better in our electorate. We must do better in our state, and we must do everything we can to make sure that we keep those promises that we have made to our community for a number of decades.
Thank you. Joey Cardenas is with us, but he can't talk because he's working. He has a meeting right now. And can we have now MABA, Mexican American Bar Association?
I'll be happy to speak for MAPA.
Go ahead, Gloria.
Excuse me. My name is Gloria Leal, and I'm Executive Director of the Mexican American Bar Association of Texas, MABA, which is a group of lawyers across the state that have joined to protect the rights of Hispanics through legal means. We have chapters in all the major cities, including El Paso, San Antonio, Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth, and Austin. MABA is happy to join LULAC and all the members of this group in condemning the actions taken by the legislature in passing 4 redistricting maps that result in suppression of minority vote and eliminate the opportunity for Hispanics and minorities to elect a candidate of their choice. This action was taken, which is a blatant symbol of racism and discrimination, are in violation of the Voting Rights Act and the US Constitution. Therefore, we will take all action, and we appreciate MALDA taking this action and filing this lawsuit to protect the rights of Hispanics and other minorities in the state. Thank you. Did you get that?
Lydia, you're on mute.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I still keep sending stuff to press. I thank you. I think we have all the organizations that are here. I'm going to turn it back to Domingo in a second. Are there any individual plaintiffs who want to say something? Okay, Domingo, you're on.
Okay. Since 1970, LULAC has filed a lawsuit against the state of Texas every 10 years because of political gerrymandering against the Latino community. But we've never seen the Republican Party or anybody else go to the extreme that we've seen this year. The Republican Party has weaponized political gerrymandering to disenfranchise and to suppress the vote of Latinos throughout the state of Texas. Every Jose and Maria and their grandparents today are being disenfranchised by what was done. For example, I'm here in Dallas, Texas. We're home to over 1.7 million Latinos. We are the largest metro area in the entire United States without a Latino congressional opportunity district. And Texas, which has 95% of the growth, and was the only state that got 2 congressional districts, did not create 1 Latino opportunity district, either in Houston or in the Rio Grande Valley or in the Dallas metro area. That is blatant discrimination. That is the only way you could have gotten to that approach. And what this does is it undermines democracy. It undermines the concept of one vote, one person, about fairness, about the system not being rigged. Because this is precisely what this Republican legislature did, was they rigged the system. This is the people versus the politicians. This is the politicians picking the voters instead of the voters picking the politicians. And we need to make sure that we do everything we can in federal court with MALDEF as our lead counsel on this to make sure that this is overturned and that we have fair lines that reflect the diversity and the growth of all Texans, but especially those of Latino origin. The political dirty tricks that have been done this year are, even by Texas standards, big size BS, bullshit. And they need to be overturned by everybody. So we're asking all our allies, African Americans, LGBTQ, those who believe that fairness and democracy, and we pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States, and we say with liberty and justice for all, it means something in Texas. We're not a separate country anymore. We have to remember our roots and what that Statue of Liberty stands for. And so today we stand with all the other organizations to say, let's get fair and equitable representation for everybody in Texas. Let's give everybody an opportunity to have a chance to represent their city, their county, and this great state and nation of ours. But when we see these dirty tricks, we have to stand up against that. And that's what we're doing. And we look forward to our day in court. And finally, Congress, Texas has shown they haven't grown up. They're still the same old Jim Crow racist state that it was when they had whites only primary, when they had poll taxes, when they had literacy tests to go vote, when they had voter ID, when they had purging of the rolls of almost 98% Latino voters just 2 years ago. And now with this political gross gerrymandering that borders on political criminality. So hopefully everybody today will stand up and join us and do that. And Congress will pass a voting rights bill that includes Texas and many other states that are engaged in voter suppression. LULAC currently is in lawsuits in Iowa, Florida, Arizona, and Texas regarding voter suppression, where again, instead of trying to enfranchise and get more people to vote, they are trying to suppress the vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Domingo. We appreciate you, your comments, and to those that joined the group as litigants, as plaintiffs. I'm going to turn it over to Nina in a second, but just for the sake of folks understanding, particularly the press and the leaders that have joined us, and some professors, this is not the first time that we have organized. Maldiv and Southwest Voter and other groups have been working on this for a very, very long time. This particular cycle, after we understood that Texas would gain anywhere from 3 to 4 congressional seats, ultimately 2 after we believe an undercount, but that's not an issue we're discussing today. We were prepared to organize communities. We are here to tell you that the task force, which Nina will discuss in a minute, presented maps, as we did in the last cycle, of potential maps that the legislators could review, indicating and showing that while they were not able to produce any new state Senate seats, state House seats, congressional seats, and state Board of Education, new seats that are Latino majority seat, and in fact, retrogress some of the seats, districts at the various levels, we're here to tell you that we were able to demonstrate that that's very, very possible, while at the same time sustaining and maintaining and respecting the districts of other communities of color who have gained representation. With that, let me turn it over to our lawyer, Nina Perales, the Vice President of Litigation at Maldiv. Nina, you're on.
Thank you very much, Lydia. And thank you to all of the plaintiffs here today for including us and having me speak today to the press. I want to point out that the plaintiffs in this case are a broad coalition of the Latino leadership within Texas. These groups represent grassroots community-based organizations like Lupe and in the Rio Grande Valley and Fiel in Houston. These organizations represent long-term membership organizations like LULAC and the American GI Forum, both founded in the early 1900s. And this coalition of plaintiffs also represents professional associations like the Mexican American Bar Association of Texas, and also TALAS, which represents school administrators. And so what you have here is a unified voice of Latinos in protest of discriminatory redistricting plans. This lawsuit challenges all 4 statewide redistricting plans: the congressional plan, the state House plan, the state Senate plan, and the redistricting plan for the state Board of Education. In all 4 of these redistricting maps, additional Latino majority districts should have been created to reflect the growth of the Latino community over the past decade, and none of them did. There is no net gain of Latino opportunity districts in any of the 4 statewide plans. As Lydia mentioned, this coalition, which is also known as the Texas Latino Redistricting Task Force, brought suit in the last redistricting round, and we won a number of important gains, including the creation of a new state house district in the Rio Grande Valley, bridging Cameron and Hidalgo counties. We were also responsible for the creation of the only new congressional district that is Latino majority in Texas in the last redistricting cycle, which is Congressional District 35, running from San Antonio to Austin. So this is a coalition with a demonstrated track record of successful litigation on behalf of Latino voting rights. And frankly, it's a disappointment that we have to continue to come together and continue to file litigation in order to ensure that Texas even gets close to fair redistricting plans. Thank you.
Okay, now we have questions from the press. I'm going to need you to raise your hand and also use the little monito, the little hand. That way I can find you.
I'm sorry if can you guys hear me? It's Pedro Rojas. I didn't raise my hand, but I just didn't find it.
Okay, Pedro, go ahead.
At Univision, I would like to see if we can get an answer in Spanish for this one. Primero de la abogada, if she can explain in a brief manner. I know you went through the 4 reasons of the lawsuit, pero si podría explicar en breve.
Recording stopped.
¿Qué es lo que más le preocupa de la acción que tomó la legislatura?
Recording in progress.
A demandar hasta que ya el gobernador firmara los mapas.
Recording stopped.
No sé si nos puede responder eso, abogada. Y también no sé si Domingo nos puede conversar un poco de las razones que le motivaron a encabezar este grupo de varias organizaciones en Texas. Gracias por la ayuda.
So I think Lydia can do in Spanish what the main concerns are with the maps, not creating any additional
Recording
Latino,
in progress.
Any additional Latino districts in Texas in any of the 4 statewide plans.
So, para empezar, para decir en español, es importante que recuérdenos que el estado de Texas creció la población debido a al censo de los últimos 10 años por más de 2,000 personas que son latinas, 4,000 total, pero la mitad de la población que creció es latina. También el estado se le dio 2 nuevos distritos de congresistas que son nuevos. Es el único estado en la Unión de los Estados Unidos que creció tan grande debido al crecimiento de varios grupos, pero en principal la comunidad latina. Ya debido a eso se nos hizo a nosotros increíble y nos molesta la idea de que el estado de Texas que creció no pudo desarrollar y construir distritos a ningún nivel que represente a la comunidad latina. En el Congreso nos quitaron varios distritos, que no me refiero a que se dice en inglés Latino Majority Districts, distritos que son mayoritarios latinos, ya no existen debido al mapa que se pasó. Nosotros hemos presentado un mapa que da dos nuevos distritos, uno en Dallas y uno en Houston. Lo mismo con el Senado del estado de Texas, y también hemos visto que pasó lo mismo en la Casa Baja y en el departamento, en el distrito de educación, perdón. Nina, ¿quieres decir algo? You want to add?
Okay.
No, thank you. I think that Domingo wanted to follow up.
Okay. Lo que estamos viendo es que el Partido Republicano está actuando como si se hubiera unido el Cucuy y la Llorona para tratar de negar el voto latino aquí en Texas a cada José y María, sustarlos, tratar de hacer todo lo posible para que no tengamos el derecho de votar para nuestros congresistas, senadores y representantes estatales. Y esto es, en opinión de nosotros, ilegal, anticonstitucional y inmoral. Y se tiene que pelear a todos niveles, en la Corte Federal y también a nivel de Congreso de Estados Unidos. Y le estamos pidiendo hoy al presidente Biden y al Congreso demócrata, necesitamos que pasar una ley que proteja los derechos de todos los americanos en este país, incluyendo a José y María, aquí en los barrios y las colonias de Texas.
Let me remind us that the groups are nonpartisan and our litigation is based on the idea that we must create Latino majority districts at all levels. And for the sake of, someone said to please repeat what I said in Spanish, I will do my best to remember what I said. But in essence, what I discussed to the Univision in Español and shared to the other reporters that are doing Spanish language media, that the state of Texas gained 2 million more Latinos compared to the population that is compared to the last census, a total of 4 million. 50% of the growth is because of Latinos, and in fact, 90% or better is because of communities of color, including Latinos, Blacks, and other communities of color. Having said that, we were disappointed and frustrated and not surprised that the state of Texas once again was able to create districts that diluted the vote, that violated the Voting Rights Act, and that created a situation where Latinos cannot have representation unless we win in court. For that reason, we filed a lawsuit. In the congressional district that several districts were retrogressed or were diluted of its potential given what they were able to do as Latino minority districts, we were able to provide maps, as we did in the last time, where we demonstrated that Dallas and Houston can have 2 new congressional districts, and while still respecting the growth of the other communities, including, as you know, Sheila Jackson Lee and Jean Green. I'm sorry, not Jean Green. Al Green were in trouble at one point where they were going to be pitted against each other, but we were able to fix the situation where we can create the 2 seats. That goes the same for the Senate. There's a Senate seat that is new from the corridor of San Antonio to Austin, the same for the House, and the same for the Senate Board of Education. This is what we can tell you, that in the past, we have demonstrated that districts can be created even when the state of Texas refuses to do that. That's basically what I said. I think those were my comments. Nina, I don't know if you want to add to that.
Only to add the fact that since the 1970s, Texas has been found to have discriminated against Latino voters by either the U.S. Justice Department or a federal court in every round of redistricting since the 1970s. The 1970s was a Supreme Court case called White versus Register. We had DOJ objections in 1980s and 1990s. In the 2000 round, another Supreme Court case, LULAC versus Perry. And then in the 2010 round, another Supreme Court case and multiple federal court holdings that Texas had discriminated against Latino voters. So although we always hope for some institutional memory on the part of the Texas legislature, we have been continuously disappointed and find ourselves once again having to file a lawsuit.
Hi, Laura Cruces with Univision Channel 23 Dallas. I couldn't find the hand either, so I'm sorry. But I would like to hear in Spanish because I have 2 questions. Están presentando esta demanda, solo para aclarar, ustedes con esta demanda buscan que no se implementen estos nuevos mapas de distritos, o qué esperan que sea el resultado de la demanda en español. Y también me gustaría que cualquiera que los que esté aquí en español le pueda decir a la gente que nos ve en su casa, que no entiende absolutamente nada de este tema, que lo ve como un tema lejano, cómo les afecta el día a día, así como decía Domingo García, a Juan, a María, que esto haya pasado. A la gente que nos ve en su casa, que no entiende de política, cómo me afecta a mí directamente que esto esté pasando. Gracias.
Gracias. ¿Alguien quiere contestar eso o lo contesto yo? Ok, nadie contestó. Vincent and Taylor, we have, I see you're next after I answer in Spanish. Hay que recordar que esto se hace cada 10 años aunque parece que es muy difícil de entender y está un poco complicado, mi experiencia con la comunidad latina es que entienden claramente qué es lo que está pasando con esta situación. Cada 10 años sabemos que los distritos se tienen que determinar debido a la población. Estados crecen o se disminuye, la población se mueve a otros estados, entonces la población es menos. En nuestro caso, el estado de Texas creció por 2 millones de personas, entonces esperamos que se haga la oportunidad de que los mapas nos den la oportunidad de que tengan los distritos donde la comunidad latina pueda determinar quién ellos van a seleccionar cuando voten, que sean sus preferidos candidatos. Eso no pasa con lo que hicieron el estado de Texas. También tenemos que recordar que si no lo demandamos y no ponemos mapas adelante, entonces ellos siguen insistiendo que no se puede hacer. Nosotros hemos demostrado que sí se puede crear. Ahora que estamos en corte, la corte va a determinar como el anterior, el pasado. La Corte Suprema últimamente nos dijo en el 2011 que debido al mapa que se construyó por el estado de Texas, se tenía que tratar de componer los errores que hizo el estado de Texas. Debido a ese punto, pudimos construir el nuevo distrito 33 en Dallas y el nuevo distrito 35 en Austin y San Antonio, o San Antonio y Austin. Ese es el problema de que el estado de Texas ha violado los derechos de la comunidad latina, ha violado el Voting Rights Act y la Constitución, y no estamos dispuestos a dejar que siga adelante. Como el tiempo anterior, este caso duró 8 años. Pensamos que va a pasar lo mismo, pero no nos vamos a detener hasta que se cumpla justicia. Con eso le tengo 3 puntos. Juanita, ¿quieres agregar algo antes de que reconozca a los otros reporteros?
Sí, por favor. Para nuestra comunidad y aquí del Valle es bien claro. O sea, en el censo, por ejemplo, batallamos mucho, luchamos mucho para poder tener un conteo exacto. No crean que esto es como un plan, como ignorarnos, como decir que no hay ciertos derechos. Hay una injusticia que está sucediendo. Le tenemos que decir a la comunidad, cuando salimos en números grandes, mucho mayor que los demás, tenemos lo de latino y afroamericanos en el censo, un crecimiento. Ahora, ese crecimiento no lo están tomando en cuenta. ¿Por qué no lo toman en cuenta esos que según tienen el poder? Entonces nosotros decimos, tenemos que entender que quieren discriminar, que esto es un racismo que existe, que los que están en poder muchas veces no aceptan a las comunidades que tengamos el derecho, como dice la compañera Lidia, de votar por candidatos con los cuales nosotros nos sentimos que son las personas que mejor nos pueden representar. Entonces, la comunidad necesitamos darles la información lo más simple, lo más que se pueda entender es que es una lucha de poder y que cada 10 años tenemos que luchar para defendernos porque nos quieren quitar ese derecho y que es injusto y que es racismo y que lo tenemos que entender como es. Gracias.
Gracias, Juana. We have Valerie, then Taylor, then Susan, then Janelle, then Sandra. Go ahead, Valerie. Identify yourself, please.
Hi, I'm a reporter with the Monitor, and I have a quick question. What would have been an alternate redistricting of the population of Rio Grande Valley, District 34 and 15? I believe some of you have addressed it, but if you could reiterate, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Nina?
So Valerie, you were a little choppy. I think your connection was intermittent, but my understanding of your question is what would have been a more fair redistricting of the 2 congressional districts that touch into the Rio Grande Valley, 15 and 34. And the answer to that is that a more fair map would have balanced the Latino population in the lower valley better between those 2 congressional districts. Instead, what we saw is called packing and cracking, where District 34 is packed with so many Latinos that it is almost 80% Latino. And at the same time, the district right next door, which is District 15, is stripped down in an attempt to make it look like a Latino majority district, but it is very intentionally crafted to be a very fragile or marginal Latino opportunity district. And this is essentially trying to make 15 into a sham district. And so the bottom line is Latino population should have been better balanced between 15 and neighboring 34.
Thank you. Susan? No, I'm sorry. Susan, perdón. I asked Taylor first because she put something on the side. Taylor and then Susan. Sorry. Taylor?
Hi. I'm a writer and reporter with Tag 24 News USA, and I was just wondering, what is the desired impact or outcome if Texas is forced to redraw the maps because of this lawsuit?
Nina, or should I answer? You're on mute.
Sorry, I accidentally unmuted and then muted myself again. The desired outcome is redistricting plans for all 4 redistricting plans that, 1, do not weaken existing Latino majority districts as these plans do, and 2, create a net increase of the number of Latino opportunity districts in the state. And those 2 things, not weakening the existing districts and increasing the number of opportunity districts, is the only fair way to reflect the demographic changes within Texas.
Thank you. Susan, you're on, and there's some, after we hear from Chanel and Sandra, there's some questions that I'll go back to and that are in the chat room. Go ahead, Susan. Identify
Lydia,
yourself, please.
Lydia, are you referring to me, Susan Gamboa?
It says Susan. I can't tell you. Somebody has their hand up.
Well, I have my hand up, so maybe it's me.
Are you a reporter?
Yeah, this is Susan Gamboa from NBC.
Oh, perdón. Adelante. You're next. Tell us who you are.
This is Susan Gamboa from NBC News. I just wanted to ask Nina, what do you think the most recent rulings, how difficult or easier
can you do us a favor and repeat, because the internet left us. Oh, okay.
I heard the question. I believe the question is, how do recent court rulings affect our ability to get success in this litigation? And I would say that, yes, it's important to acknowledge that recent Supreme Court rulings have made it more difficult to win voting rights cases. And particularly, the removal of the preclearance requirement over Texas means that Texas no longer has to get its plans approved by the federal government before it puts them into effect. And this is a serious matter because these plans are discriminatory. Before the Supreme Court ruling in Shelby, they probably would have been blocked in Washington, D.C. But instead, the burden has shifted to community-based organizations, civic engagement organizations like Southwest Voter, Mi Familia Vota, and others to file a lawsuit. So yes, it's important to recognize that the hill is steeper now, but these maps are so egregiously discriminatory that we believe that even with the remaining tools that we have in court, that the court will overturn these maps.
Nina, I think I was also referring to the rulings on partisanship versus race.
Well, the
race issues.
Sure, this case does not bring partisan gerrymandering claims. Those claims have largely been foreclosed by the US Supreme Court. And those are claims that are often brought by the Republican Party or the Democratic Party. This group of organizations has been around for decades. These are Latino advocates who have seen discrimination regardless of who is in charge of the Texas legislature. And as you have heard articulated over and over again, these plans represent race discrimination, pure and simple. And we still do have the tools under the Voting Rights Act and the Constitution to battle this race discrimination.
Thank you. Janelle, Susan, you're good, right?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Janelle.
Hi, yes, this is Janelle with KHOU in Houston. One of my questions was already answered. The other question is, I thought I heard you mention that there was a proposal that you guys did submit of a map. Is that correct?
We did.
We can put those links in the chat.
Oh, that would be great. Thank you so much.
That's great. Just for clarification, we submitted through Maldiv. Maldiv prepared them for us, 4 different 4 maps for the different levels.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Sandra Sanchez.
Hi, yes. Valerie Gonzalez already asked about 2 of the congressional districts, 1534 in the Rio Grande Valley. I'm curious about District 28, which is Laredo, now ends at the Starr County line. What your comments are on that, as well as El Paso district, where Fort, the Army base there has, it looks like, been taken away from Veronica Escobar. What are your comments on that? Thank you.
Nina?
We are still analyzing the changes to Congressional District 28. And as for the changes out in El Paso, we have a lot of concerns about the changes in El Paso, not only in the congressional plan, but also in the state house plan, where it appears that there was a consistent attempt across redistricting plans to dilute Latino voting strength in far West Texas and in El Paso. It's not easy to answer the question as you framed it, that there was a military base taken away from an individual representative. This case is not about the person who sits in the seat of the representative. And so probably the better way to answer the question is that the people of El Paso, the voters of El Paso, who are over 80% Latino, are experiencing shifts and changes in their political lines that are not working to serve the Latino community there in El Paso.
Nina, may I add some comments to that? Because I did put some in the chat box specifically on that topic.
Go ahead.
Actually, in El Paso right now, late last night, they kind of split Fort Bliss. That's what they want to do. They want to carve out Biggs Army Airfield into the 23rd district and give a piece of the, keep a piece of Fort Bliss in the 16th district, which belongs to Congresswoman Escobar currently. And we don't see that right because in the GI Forum, because El Paso, the military, the veterans, their families, and the federal employees, they're the ones that work in El Paso. And historically, it's a piece of El Paso, and the person who represents El Paso should represent Fort Bliss and Biggs Army Airfield. That's where we're at, because you got to be bipartisan. We represent bases. It's not about Democrats, it's not about Republicans, it's not about Libertarians. It's about doing what's right for the community. And we have the same thing on my chat box I put about Blackland Air Force Base in Port San Antonio. Historically, that's been in the 20th district, but for political purposes, they want to change and cut that into the 23rd district. Serving the military is about being political. Serving the military is about serving your country and being bipartisan and working with all the parties. When we're in the foxhole, we don't look at somebody as a Democrat or Republican. We look like they're gonna cover our rear. So that's what's important. So please check the chat box. I do have that in there. Thank you very much.
But to be fair and to remind us, we're discussing what we know at this point. And Nina very clearly has indicated that there are still pieces that we need to review. That Maldiv's lawyers and Nina and all of the task force and the folks that are part of the litigation need to review. There's obviously were changes because yesterday, obviously the session closed. Nonetheless, it's important to note that the most important thing about today that you can take is that Texas grew by 2 million more Latinos. And rather than the state honoring the growth and respecting the Latino community by creating districts at all levels that represent the Latino community and that Latinos can elect candidates of their choice, they refused to do that by creating maps that violated the voting rights of the Latino community as well as other communities. We're here to speak on behalf of the Latino community, and we have filed those lawsuits. The lawsuit includes all 4 maps. As we said, we submitted some maps. Once we go to court, everything starts over, but we know we can create better maps if given the opportunity. If we get caught up with the situation that we did last time, which is the Supreme Court, if we end up before the United States Supreme Court and they say, fix it from what you have been given, el atole ya se quemó. It doesn't work. So we did our best given what we did last time, given the map that we were told to fix, and we did that. We're prepared to do that again. I can tell you this, these groups that stand before you or pictured before you and the internet before you are prepared to fight all the way to the end. We have done this for a long time. LULAC started in 1929, Southwest Voter and Maldiv in 1968. We can't say we started in 68 because we were blacklisted because they didn't want Willie Velasquez to register Mexicans to vote. And if you remember in 1968, there were signs that said, no Mexicans, no Blacks, no dogs. It feels the same way. Nina, do you want to say something? I can turn it over to anybody who wants to make a last comment, unless there's other questions from the press.
I think Juanita's hand might be up. I'm not sure if it's still up from before or not.
I think Juanita did.
Yes, I know. Some of the folks said, we don't know how to raise our hand. I know how to raise my hand. I don't know how to lower my hand. So thank you.
All right. Anybody else? Suzanne, you have your hand up, but I don't know if it stayed from the last time.
Yeah, it stayed. I'll take it down.
Gracias. Anybody else? Okay. We don't have any other questions. I don't know if Nina or one of the other folks wants to say the last comments. We thank you for your time. We ask you to keep an eye on what we're up to because we are ready to fight and we're ready to provide recommendations to the courts on how we should create districts that allow for Latinos to have their rights respected and protected. Hasta pronto. Cuídense. Have a good day.
Muchísimas gracias. Gracias, Nina, Lidia.
Que viva la raza.
Gracias. Y que viva.
Thank you, Nina, Lidia, everyone, Domingo. Thank you.
Adelante con ganas.
Whoever said that, thank you.
Muchísimas gracias.
Gracias. We still have a couple of reporters that have stayed so far.
I think as host, you may be able to end the Zoom meeting. That would be my recommendation.
Okay. Ruben, did you hear that?
Yes, I'll end it.